It's time for Maggie and the Moms. Sponsored by Tampa General Hospital.
We know we gotta have friends, like the song says, but making them and keeping them can be challenging for kids and parents. But don't worry, we are gonna navigate it together today, and we have the perfect ladies to do that with. Danielle Bayard Jackson is here. She's a friendship coach. I'm so excited to talk to a friendship coach.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
And she is an author as well. Fighting for Our Friendships is the name of her debut book. I say debut book because I want more. Okay? Fighting for Our Friendships. How has the tour gone for that?
It's been incredible. It's been so great to travel and hear women's personal stories of friendship and reconciliation. So, like, what a gift to be able to do this.
Well, what a gift to us to have you here. Thank you. Danielle is a mother of 2. We have Kiva Williams. She is a mother of 3. She is the Fun Foodie Mama on Instagram. She also founded Mahogany Kids, which I love the concept, bringing the arts to all children. And we have Deanna Moore. I've been saying it like that lately. Like you're Italian or something. Deanna Moore.
Oh, it's like love.
Right?
Amore.
Deanna Amore.
Spaghetti.
I love it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Yes, this
Thank
is
you
our
for being here, ladies.
Our first Maggie and the Moms of 2025.
Oh, and it's very colorful. Might I add?
Yes. Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yep.
Yes. Well, it's a good thing you ladies are here because I love this topic of, I think it's a resolution that we were talking earlier, Danielle, doesn't get made enough. You resolve in the new year to lose weight. You resolve in the new year to get healthy, maybe to work harder, but nobody thinks about friendship resolutions. Mm-hmm. What does that look like in your opinion, Danielle, and why should we consider that?
Okay. Well, I love that we're having this conversation because one statistic that tends to anchor this for me is the longest running study on happiness is from Harvard. They followed people for more than 80 years trying to figure out what makes us happy. And they looked at all these things and they found that the number one thing that determines how satisfied you are with your life and how healthy you are in your body is the quality of your relationships. But if we look at the list of resolutions we form, for many of us, we don't have any relational resolutions on there. But that's more likely to impact your longevity. And so I love that we're having these conversations. And the resolutions can look like a bunch of different things. At the Women's Relational Health Institute, they've identified 5 domains of your relational health, and that's your mindset around friendship, your ability to form new friendships, that's connection. Momentum is about deepening. Then there's conflict. And then renewal, so releasing friendships. So you can have a resolution in any of those domains. It doesn't just have to be about making new friends.
I like that. And there's no question that friendship has so many benefits. And we see it in our children, right? When life is going good, when their social connections are firing, they're happier, they're healthier, they're just better. But it can be a difficult skill for us as adults to manage, and for kids even more so. So I'd like to talk about how we can help our kids to make friends. Kiva, is that something that you're intentional about? Do you help them, or do you just like let them figure it out?
Well, that's a good question because I'm struggling with that myself, like as an adult, because friendships come and go, right? Of course, you want to hold on to ones that you've had for a long time, but you also want to explore new ones. So sometimes putting yourself out there can be hard, but you want to model something that you're trying to teach your child. So I say, because I have 3 kids and they have each other like they're siblings, but they're different age groups. So making friends is something that they enjoy doing, and I help them facilitate it. Like when they want to go to the playground and my daughter wants to go up to the little girl, I'll, encourage her. Sometimes she's a little bit shy, but I'm like, hey, go over there, tell her your name, show her your doll. So I think encouraging it is good.
I think that you mentioned what I think is the hardest thing about making friends. The most important thing when you're making friends, but it can also be the hardest both for adults and children, is putting yourself out there because you're risking rejection. Right. What if they don't like me? What if this doesn't work? I'm so comfortable here in my bed. I'm not gonna go outside and ride my bike. And so how do we encourage our kids to put themselves out there?
I think if we can help them find the value of just trying. And for a lot of my clients and for my kids, we try to talk about how rejection is inevitable. That way we're not wondering, what if? And I'm also not giving them false hope. Oh, they're going to like you. They're going to love it. They're going to want to play with you. They might not.
They might not.
But so much of life is about how you metabolize rejection. So we're going to look at your resilience. You know, some people are going to be your friend, some people aren't, but that doesn't mean you're any less funny or lovable. You know, that people get to choose. So helping them build that muscle up front, I think will help in the long run.
I think when my kids were growing up, something very important for me was putting them in situations that would enable them to make friends. So I would throw them in everything. I would sign them up for everything. Dance class, you're going. That art workshop, you're doing it. Little League baseball, I hate baseball. I don't care. You know, I was that mom, and they thank me for it because that's where they made, not just in school. In school, they were so busy. Of course, they have their school friends. But they were so busy that they sometimes didn't take away the kinds of deep friendships, or maybe enough of them that I wanted them to. So in these other extracurriculars, I found that they found their longest lasting friends. And so I think as a parent, that's the number one advice that I would give. Is
I stress quality.
put your kids in stuff.
I stress quality over quantity.
What do you mean by that?
Because I think there's this big thing of we need to tell our kids to make friends, but then sometimes some of these kids aren't great for our kids. You know?
For sure.
So rather than trying to be friends with all the kids and put yourself out there just to get a bunch of rejection, because sometimes come on, kids are mean. Yeah. Kids can be so mean. And I don't know what it is about girls. Maybe I'm stereotyping here, but girls seem to gravitate towards the mean girls. The queen bee head honcho dictates in the classroom who gets all of the friends and who has to be friends with certain people. So when my girls come home and they're down because some queen bee doesn't like them, you don't have to be friends with her.
No.
Be friends with the person who shares your, likes and does things with you and is kind to you rather than trying to be friends with everybody.
I couldn't agree more. I think you only need one or two good friends. I don't think it's about quantity either. And I think what you mentioned is something so important too, is Mom, but what does a friend look like? Like, how do I know what a good friend is? I know how I define it, but how would you guys define it for your children and for yourselves?
Yeah, I know people have different lists of characteristics. I always say in a technical standpoint, from doing this work is, it's a person who we are familiar with one another. Because a lot of times there's these parasocial relationships where I feel like I know this person on social media or something, but they don't know you exist. It's a one way. Yeah. So we both have knowledge of each other. There's mutual contribution and mutual affection, which sounds obvious, but do I like you? And do you like me? It sounds so simple, but I'm sure we've all had friendships where you're like, does she even really like me?
Yes.
Or do I even really like her, but I need somebody to hang out with? So do you really like them? And I think even having your kids define it is important because it helps to coach them through being able to discern it for themselves. So you don't need mama to give you approval. Well, you told me that you want girls who reach out to you too. You told me you like when they're funny. I don't know. Do you think she's funny? Is she nice? So helping them kind of measure it against the standards we've talked about helps them to see it's not mom telling you can't be friends with that girl, but you told me you don't want to be friends with girls who gossip.
Love that.
You told me that. So I found that to be helpful.
I agree.
That can be hard though, because my daughter is 6 and I remember going to the playground with her when she was 3 or 4 and she wanted to be friends with people so bad. Right. So I'm observing her and the kids are kind of being mean to her. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to be their friends. I'm trying to tell her that I know you want to play with them, but sometimes if they're, like you said, treating you a certain way, you're not obligated to be their friends. And it was hard for her to learn. She's only 6, so she's still kind of navigating that. But watching your child trying to play with people, and then sometimes they may or may not, they want to play with her, but they're bossing her around, And
right.
I'm like, okay, hey, I don't want to jump in too much, but I want to remind her that you have options.
Here's the thing. I think it's our job as parents to teach our kids how to do things. They're not just going to know. And I do think that includes friendship. I think that, maybe if in that scenario, your kid is being rejected at the playground, you as the mom sit back and watch and say, is my kid doing something that maybe I could tell them, hey, I noticed that you weren't sharing, you were hogging the slide, you were being super bossy and annoying and not letting that girl speak. Because I think that's our job as parents because I don't know, do you agree?
But what do you do when they're at school when you don't see all of their behavior? Because we only get, when they start school, we only get 70% of them. We don't know all the things that they do.
That's why when they're with you, that's all you can do.
Right.
You watch them when they're with you and say, I noticed this about your behavior. And then also I think say, what makes a good friend? You want a good friend, right? Are you being a good friend, and just have those constant conversations. You were nodding like crazy, Danielle.
Oh my God.
Applauding too. I think.
I was like slow clapping. Yeah, that's such a great point about like they're at school, you don't really see it, because I have said to my husband, like when we take the kids to the park, or how you said having them in extracurriculars, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't notice Elijah does that. I didn't know, because I don't see it. I'm like, man, he's so strong with his sister, but he's kind of passive, babe. Like so it helps me to see and to be able to coach him through, hey, you speak up for yourself. Or, hey, Elijah, they get to have a say in the game. You are not the boss in the game. So those social skills, to your point, I do think it's our job, because we have the context of relationships. So, I love you and I want the best for you. And I'm telling you lovingly, you're doing too much. And people might not like that. And that way they're aware.
And if you don't tell them, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
They're not going to know why they're being rejected. They're not going to know that that's not a good way to be or act in life and work, in relationships.
Well, I learned something from the segments we do with Danielle about not putting all of your friendship eggs in one basket. And we learn that as adults when we're trying to make friends as adults. We talked about having mom friends, and we talked about having your go out to drink friends, or your friends you've known for 20 years and you haven't talked in 10, but it's like when you pick up the phone, it's like you just talked yesterday. I think kids need to start learning that too.
Yes.
Because I have, my daughter has her volleyball friends, and my daughter has her third grade friends who at fourth grade, they're not really friends anymore because they don't see each other every day. But that's okay, because even in that year, they grow apart. They find new friends. And one of my daughters is very much concerned that, well, this friend is not friends with me anymore because we're not in the same class. We don't see each other every day. And now she has all these new friends. And, well, we can try to see them outside of class. But if it doesn't happen, realize we have other friends that we can make. Is that a bad thing to say to her, Danielle, friendship coach?
No, I think that's great, because I think it starts to train kids from the beginning that that friendships evolve and stretch, so that they're not so immobilized or disheartened when it shifts. So I think preparing them for, oh yeah, sometimes you guys are going to be really close, or maybe she made a new friend. I know sometimes that's hard, especially for girls, when it's like, oh, wait a second, we're besties. So coaching them through, you guys are still friends too, but maybe this is a wake up call to like have a new friend, or your band friend, or your Girl Scouts friend. So training them that there's so much that's available to you in your friendship landscape, I think will make them less disheartened when they lose someone or when a relationship shifts.
Yes. And also, I think that you have to, and Kiva, you mentioned this, model it. If they see that, when you go through something with a friend, Mom, you used to be so close with blank and now you're not really.
Right. They do notice that.
How you handle the situation, they're watching everything that you do.
Yeah.
So if you're modeling a healthy friendship breakup, because I'm tapping into my Danielle knowledge as well, then they're going to learn that from you. So everything that you do, how you model, the way you have a friend, the way you are a friend, the way you leave a friend, they're going to pick up on just by watching you. I think that's another important point.
But can you share a little bit about, you said you put your kids in all this extracurricular activities, right? I've done that too. I'm the mom that's like dragging them everywhere.
Yeah.
But my oldest is more of an introvert. And when I take his phone away, like, hey, I'm dropping you off at XYZ to socialize, engage. You can't bring your phone. I feel like he still doesn't want to engage. So it's like this new age, these kids, they rely so much on communicating through their phones.
So true.
But you want them to interact and you can't get them to come around. So just give me a little bit of advice on how you're navigating your older kids with not relying on your phone, but just question. In person. Like, just say hi, just introduce yourself, please.
Yeah. Gosh, we moved, that's okay. We moved to a house that we had been remodeling for 2 years. And we live across the street from two boys who are my son's age. And they were outside in the front lawn throwing a football. And my husband says to my son, go and introduce yourself. And you would have thought that my husband asked him to go cut his finger off. What? No, Dad.
Yeah.
That is not cool. I'm not doing that. So my husband goes, hey, hi, I'm Mike. This is my son, Mikey. And Mikey, telling me the story later, was like, Mom, it was awful. It was the worst. And I'm like, but what happened next? We started throwing the football together. Because so Kiva, I feel you, they don't want to do it.
At all.
Right? But maybe sometimes they need a little push. Other times, if you just take away their phone and say, because here's something that I did too. we started Snapchat. We let him finally have Snapchat. And we said, okay, but these are the strict rules that you have to follow along with all the other house rules that you have. And we have a caveat in there. If you set up a hangout with a friend, all of these rules that you have to follow go bye-bye for the day. That's how much I want to encourage him to get off the dang phone and go hang out with humans. All you have to do is set up a hangout. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's incentive for him to reach out more because
that's good.
Unfortunately for these kids, it's not normal to them like it was for us.
Yeah, we have social media and COVID babies right now. They do not know how to interact in person.
How to interact.
It's crazy.
And when you put them in extracurriculars, I just meant like put them in situations where they're going to meet other people their age. It's not that they're going to find their best friend there, but at least they're exposed and they have a better chance. And then if they are there and they feel like, oh, nobody on the team likes me or I didn't make a close friend, there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that because you mentioned you have an introvert, I don't want the introverted kid to feel like there's something wrong with them because everybody else is having a blast on the team and that person, and they would rather not. How do you navigate that, Danielle?
Yeah, that is so tricky. And for the introverts, maybe they do get more energy from being alone. Maybe they are not going to be the loudest person in the room, but kind of showing them that you don't have to be. So I'm not asking you to operate inauthentically, still be you. But yes, you are going to need to know how to walk up to someone and ask for what you need or introduce yourself, or maybe if, how your son, you drop him off and you're like, okay, you need to interact. Can we, negotiate on a time? Hey, you've got 1 solid hour and I'll come and get you. That way they know, okay, I know how long I'm going to be here. I know who I'm going to be with. Maybe I prep you with some things to talk about and I kind of facilitate that for you. Hey, you're both on the soccer team, or he loves, whatever basketball player, he loves him too. So maybe I can help you figure out and learn how to model for you, like, here's how you can prepare conversation starters. It's only going to be an hour. Make the most of the hour. So it feels less like, how long am I going to be here? Who is this kid? What do you want me to do? Those things can kind of help give them some containers to operate, but not interacting is not on the table. It's not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love that because sometimes when they're older, they may roll their eyes when you give them ideas of stuff that they could say or do or talk about. But they're listening. They might throw out the, hey, so I heard you're a big LeBron James fan. Because mom put that in, even though they're so I'm all for that, Danielle. I absolutely love that. So other hurdles that kids face, sometimes they get too possessive and they don't want to share a friend. That's a problem that some kids have. And so that turns off the other friend. How would you navigate a situation like that?
Yeah, so my specialty is in women's interactions and friendships, and this does tend to happen more often with women. It's because boys tend to, what the research says, I know I'm generalizing, but the research continues to find that men tend to congregate more in groups. So they've got less closeness because to some degree you can kind of remain anonymous in a group, right? So they have less intimacy than girls tend to have in their friendships, but they've got more people. So they expect to kind of like share and whatever. As long as I'm a part of the squad, it's like a status thing. Yeah. But for women, we are very dyadic, meaning we're one-to-one in our relationships, which accounts for the reason why they tend to be so close. So it makes total sense to me that if it's like me and you in this mutually exclusive vault, and now suddenly you keep talking about this girl, Tiffany.
Tiffany.
That little Tiffany, then naturally I'm going to feel kind of like possessive or like what's going on because girls are we're in the vault together and that's what makes us close. And so it is hard. And even when we're young, we do tell girls like, oh, is that your bestie? Yes. Like even the language we use is very much like, is that your person?
I think that is problematic. I did it all the time growing up, but to say that's my best friend, I don't like that.
Like you can only have one, right?
I never thought about that. We don't hear boys a lot like, that's my best friend. Girls are always, they want BFFs. Everything is BFF.
I think that's a hot take. I love that. I think that's a wonderful thing. What about as adults? Because we talked about how we have to model for our kids. What are you saying by the way that you make friends, nurture your friendships, and communicate with your friends?
That can be hard because sometimes you have certain friends, like you have your mom friends, you have your, like you said, you're going out to the club friends. I'm not going to the club. I'm just saying.
I'm like, you do?
Right.
Hey,
you have going out to the club friends?
No, going out to get coffee friends.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. So sometimes you want to merge those, but sometimes they don't click. So, I mean, you can invite and they can come, and then when you realize it doesn't work, you just keep it separate, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so interesting because you know your kids are watching you, even when we're not directly teaching, but they're watching to see if I am talking on the phone to one friend and then I talk about her to the next friend. Like they're watching, that's what we do. We talk about each other with each other. Or if I'm canceling plans or I don't want to go, or, so, and I think that it's helpful sometimes even for those who experience mom guilt, like I don't want to leave the kids, but like your kids need to see you model. Okay, I've had time with you. I'm going to go with my friends, and to see I prioritize that, or to see me work through a tough thing with a friend, but they're watching, they're listening and looking for us to direct, for direction of what to do in their own friendships. So it's kind of tough, and I try to teach my kids hot take friendship stuff all the time. Like you can have more than one best friend and here's a hot take. And I don't know how people are going to receive it. I'm just going to throw it out.
We want to hear it.
I no longer believe in the more, the merrier. Ooh. And I think sometimes to be inclusive, you have to be exclusive.
Snaps.
So I know that sometimes it's like nice to invite everybody from the class to the birthday party. I know I'm going to.
No. Say it.
But
say
sometimes if there's the two kids in the class who are a hot mess and they break stuff and other kids are scared
Run
around
your
them.
house.
Yes.
Then if our objective of the gathering is to have a good time and play, but some kids don't want to come, or they don't want to show up or feel safe because those two kids are going to be there, then we need to have a conversation about those two kids being here, because it's not going to be at the detriment of the whole group. And I believe that with adults too. So sometimes I'll have a little dinner party with like 3 friends, but it's not because I like them more. It's because we're talking about books. These are my friends who like books.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to invite the friend who's going to be like, oh, boring. So sometimes it's like,
and
what's
that's
the objective?
okay.
And
Not only
that's
okay, but good.
And then on the reverse, and I think it helps them when they don't get invited to something.
Exactly.
Sometimes maybe it's because the person was a bad friend. Sometimes maybe they were in the same neighborhood at the same time, so they got coffee.
That's right.
And I'll see them next time.
Right.
So it's tricky. I know it's a rejection thing, but just something to consider.
No, I love that. And I could not agree more, because I think that you need to teach your kids that how you should feel. This has always been my gauge as to, I know that's a good friend because of how I feel when I'm with that person or after I've been with that person. So somebody who lifts you up, who makes you feel good about yourself, that's what a good friend feels like. And that's what you have to be to someone else. So if you don't invite the class bully to the party, you're sending the message that that is not okay. You're not the type of person that gets to be with me, that gets to hang out with me and my friends. Because sometimes I think that they're so desperate for the cool kid or even if it's the bully, to like them. The queen bee that you mentioned, Deanna, they're so desperate for that approval or affection that they will take that kind of abuse and they will lower themselves. We have to
Tale as
teach
old
them.
as time.
We have to teach them no. But when they're desperate to be part of the popular crowd, how do you teach them that you don't have to be, and you don't have to, and in fact you shouldn't seek the approval or the friendship or the affection of somebody who doesn't make you feel good?
I literally went to like a mom and muffins thing at my daughter's daycare when she was younger, and I witnessed like 3 girls just totally ignoring her, not like including her. And I was like, hey, Nia, how come you're not playing with them? They're like, oh, they don't let me play with them. But it was like one main girl who was making the other 2 girls like not play with my daughter. And I was holding back tears. I'm like, this starts this early? She was literally 3. It was daycare. And I was like, okay. So I, of course, sat there and played with her. And then I watched her like run around and play with the other people. But I was just like, at this young age, girls already start like saying, but she wanted to play with them. So I had to tell her like, hey, it's okay. Reassure her that she can play by herself, unfortunately, or play with other, like the boys. Right. But I literally witnessed at 3 years, maybe 4, 3 to 4, one main little girl was like the ruler of the daycare, and she decided who these other 3 girls could play with. So I was like, wow. So it made me think like, even this young,
that's
you
why
have to start it.
You got to start young to build their sense of self and their self-esteem, know their worth, so that when somebody like that rejects them, they're not prepared for it. And then they say, what's wrong with me?
It also makes me think, I hope the parents of the girl who's doing the don't play with her or this is mine, we need to call it out too, because some of us are pleasant women, and our daughter has that tendency
For sure.
to be bossy or to keep friends or to threaten and to show her.
And like
that's
Deanna
not
says,
okay.
sometimes you don't see it because you're not with your
Right,
kids
that's
all the
true.
time. Like,
Only sucks that
what
went
if your
there.
kid is that kid and you don't know? Do you want another mom to tell you?
I would.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had a situation where there was a kid in my car who did something. I'm not going to say what because then it'll give it away who it was. Atrocious. I'll tell y'all later. And I didn't tell the mom because we weren't
Felt
close
bad.
enough friends that I think she
That's
would
tough.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think she would have been like, I don't believe it.
Well, that's another problem. And my sister, who is a teacher, will tell you this all the time. Like, we want to know, and there are kids who are out there doing the worst things, and their parents co-sign it. Because we live in an age where my kid doesn't do anything wrong.
Yes.
Like, no,
Not
my
my
kid
kid.
would never.
Yes.
My kid doesn't lie. You a lie. Everybody lies.
Yep.
So that's what
Like,
we're dealing
that's where
with
she
now.
gets it from. Yeah.
I am team teacher all day,
Yes.
every day.
Yeah, agreed.
If the teacher tells me my
yeah.
kid did something, I almost don't even need to hear my kid's side of the story.
Agreed.
Right?
Because
I still hear their story just to see
I
how
know,
far
I'm kidding.
apart. I'm just like, okay, that's really what happened. That's not what Miss Clark
And you
said.
just said something that brought up. I watched over the holiday this movie, Night B Word, which is what my daughter calls it. Have you seen this movie?
Oh,
I
yeah.
highly.
With Amy Adams.
Amy
you
Adams.
recommend it?
Is it
Yes.
Netflix?
Okay.
Did you see it?
No, but I'm
Okay.
dying to.
It's called Night B.
Night B Word.
Night B word. Okay.
It's about motherhood. It's about what your brain goes through. I don't want to give too much away, but she has this internal monologue that you don't know what's reality in the movie and what, is sort of a dreamscape for her. But anyway, I say all this to say she walks into a scene where it's a library full of moms and their kids. And when she sees all the moms, she's like, ugh, why do I have to be friends with people just because you also gave birth?
yeah.
And it's like, I think a lot as the adults looking for friendships, we force ourselves in these situations, like trying to find common ground. But just because we share this natural thing, does that mean we're going to share other things?
Oh, for sure.
Have you tried the mom group thing? And you're like,
Oh, yes.
these B words.
Oh, yes, I have. But I've also found that I have psyched myself out. Like one time when my kids started at a new school and I went to the first baseball practice. It was a brand new team with all these people who had known each other forever. I would just watch them from afar, kind of interacting. I'm like, I hate them already. And those are my closest friends to this day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But my instinct was, I hate them. I don't want to be friends with them. I don't want to go because they were all close. And I was just hating the fact that I wasn't part of the group is what I was hating.
Yeah.
Just
But
psychoanalyze yourself.
But I have to face my fear, just like my kids. I tell them, maybe my kids looked at the team and said, I don't want to go in there. They all know each other. And, But you have to do it because it goes back to put yourself out there because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And my daughter, who is 19, I always bring her up every podcast because she is
she's
my role model. She teaches me.
Oh, I love that.
She was like, I'm feeling like I'm not making enough friends. And when she started high school, I don't have a good friend group yet. I don't like it. I'm going to do something about it. So she would text her friends. Because this is another thing I want to talk about. Texting friends. But anyway, coming back to the story. She started texting her friends. Like this one friend that she was friends with, but wasn't crazy close, but she liked the girl. She would text her, how was your day? How was your week? What are you doing right? Like she would text that girl.
Intentionally. Wow, I love that.
They are
Wow.
sisters now.
Wow.
Because Daniela reached out almost every day with a thoughtful question. This made me think of you. I saw this on social media. Oh, you would love this place. Why don't we go? And she did that with this girl in particular, but also another friend. And one friendship, it led to more hangouts and it didn't work out. And one friendship is now like her sister. Like those are going to be friends for life.
Kudos
And
to
it's because
her.
she put herself out there and she was
That's
thoughtful.
amazing.
Isn't that great?
That's amazing. I just love the sense of agency of saying like, I can do something about this. And so many of us are waiting to be chosen, waiting for somebody to see us. So I love the idea of saying, you know what, this is what I want for my life. So let me figure out a way to get it is awesome.
And half the battle is putting yourself out there. Another thing I learned from Danielle is that what people will do is they'll text a couple times and then they won't hear back, and so they're like, they don't like me,
Right.
Or, and you don't know what's going on in their lives,
That's
and then
right.
the friendship falters because it never got off the ground because everybody was too scared.
Yes.
Her words, not mine.
Her words. I know we have learned so much from you in all our segments.
my
I
gosh.
mean, you're so wise. And I want to end this topic on because technology is a big part of our lives. Just like Daniela texted that girl. I want to talk about the message that we send to our kids and also the message that we send to other friends or potential friends through our texting or lack thereof skills. All right. So I read this article, and that's what's making me bring this up. It was so on point because you get a text from a friend and you read it and you're like, oh, that's great. That's funny. And you go about your business. You never reply. You never told them you found it funny. You never told them you appreciated it. And then 3 days go by and you're like, oh man, I didn't respond. Now it's too late. Because now what am I going to say? It's 3 days later. And then that poor person is left thinking, what did I do? What's wrong? How can we be better? Asking for a friend, me. At that. Help me. Oh my God, are we all guilty of this? We all have a face like we're all guilty of this.
What I do is I don't open the text because if I know I can't respond right away, I'm so guilty of I'll open the text, read it, laugh, whatever, like you said, but then I won't respond because I'm doing other stuff. I'm multitasking. I'm horrible at multitasking. So now I just don't open the text until I can literally sit down and know I can respond to it, because otherwise I'll leave you on read and you're thinking I hate you and I really don't. I just got distracted by my other 5 things I was doing.
Or you mark it as unread if you do kind of read it. Do you do that?
I purposely don't even open it because like I literally have the problem of not responding.
What if you don't forget to open it for 3 days and then it's too late?
Well, the notification is still there.
I can't do that. The notification red bubble.
Yeah, so it prompts you to like.
You couldn't handle just leaving.
My sister has like 277 of those, and I'm
you can't take it.
Nope.
You know what I did yesterday that was super gratifying? I reduced my unread emails from 1,700 to 20 to 20.
By just
anyway, go ahead.
Wow.
By doing what?
Yeah, I did. Well, I looked at them and made sure I didn't open each one, but some were obvious deletes, but others were opening and actually reading them. 1,700, guys. It took me an hour.
Wow.
Anyway, back to the topic. Sorry.
No, but so this makes a good point of like, okay, the notifications, I feel like I need to get that number down and I got to get my emails down. I'll just say this. I'm not, justifying for anyone, but I will say a lot of people do report that being in group chats and the notifications bring them tons of stress. Bring them a lot of stress. So I know it could seem simple for those who are texters, but a lot of people feel like, you're working or you're doing whatever, or you're relaxing. And so if I have to respond or I'm expected to respond every time I'm notified, they're constant disruptors throughout the day. And there's research that finds that it takes 23 minutes to recover mentally when you've been interrupted from the thing. And that's a lot of time. Yeah. And so a lot of people feel like, it makes them anxious to like feel like they've got to get back, or you're trying to do this thing, but in your mind, she's waiting on me. I need to get back. I've had a friend who's in LA. She tells people that she gets to her texts every Friday. And I know that sounds kind of crazy.
No,
I don't know. I don't know if she
sounds
previews
amazing
them to see if they're urgent. I don't know. But she settles in on Friday with coffee, and that's when she gets back. And I kind of get it. I've also told people who are like, man, my friends don't text me back. We look at the kind of text they're sending. So if you're sending something that's like a meme, is there ambiguity there where a person feels like,
do you have to get back?
You want me to respond? Or when people text like, hey, how are you? Like some people, I'm some people. I feel like get to the thing.
Hey, how are you?
Like I feel like get to the thing.
Talk about this, Gianna.
Why are we doing these? Why are we doing these pleasantries?
Yes, we know each other. Just
What are you up to?
I hate
Girl.
just hi. I hate it. Hi.
Yes.
What?
yes.
I'm too busy for your hi.
Yes.
But do you feel some type of way when they do start with the highs and then 2 texts later they're actually asking the thing they want? You're
Like,
just
no,
I'd rather they ask
the
the thing.
first text.
Yeah.
I'd rather they
I'm like,
ask
this is
the
what
thing.
you really wanted. Like, come on.
And
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, because I just actually was working with a client and she was like, I feel like every friend I make, they're so bad. They're so bad at texting. And she said it's like every friend, like they're going a week. And to some degree, it feels rude, like to not be responsive or communicate. And I get it. But one thing I offered her is just that since some people are not great at texting, maybe that's true. But we can even ask toward the beginning, like, okay, so what's your style, girl? Like, are you a phone call girl? Because I need to know. Because one of these ways you maintain friendships. Yeah. If you don't at all, that's another conversation.
Wow.
But maybe texting's not your thing. But then how are you nurturing it? Do you want to hang every weekend? Do you want a phone call every Sunday? But to just not do text, not do calls, not hang out,
Then they don't want to be your friend.
That's not compatible with what I'm trying to do.
They don't like
you. Know?
Then
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you hear about that I think he's a grandfather, a dad who he went viral because he said, I have to remove myself from the group chat because it was like a big family group chat. And he said, because it's too much pressure. So in perpetuity, I like this. I heart this. Congratulations. And I'm out. And then he removed himself from the group chat.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Group
it.
chats can be draining.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Ding,
maybe
ding, ding. I can't.
the takeaway is be selective in your texting.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal if you don't get a response. if I want to send you a meme because it reminded me of you, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to feel like you hate me if you don't heart it or like it or ever tell me anything about it. Right?
I think you just summarized it beautifully.
But wait, real quick though, guys.
Yeah.
So during the Christmas season, everybody was sending out invites, right, to things, and I kept getting texts about parties to go to, and I'm like, I'm actually a homebody, guys. I like just being at home with my favorite show, scrolling on TikTok. So when they kept texting me about these parties, I felt like obligated to come because, like, first it was like, hey, just let me know if you're available, and I'm like, okay, I'll check the date. I can't really go.
Nobody cares if you don't go. That's the hard truth.
Actually, the research proves that people
My
are
oldest
okay
son
if
was
you
like,
don't.
he was like, Mom, why do you go to things you don't want to? I'm like, well, they text me 3 times about it, so now I'm like, I
You
gotta
understand
go.
why you have an introvert.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's taking notes, Mom.
He's like,
The only
just say
problem
no.
is if the same person keeps inviting you to stuff and you don't go, then you're not going to get invited after a while.
That's true.
The only
No, but what I'm
thing
saying is,
that I can
it's
think.
for one event, and you've sent me 3 texts about it. Now I'm like, okay, I said I would get back to you, but you text me 3 times about it. So now I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to be here, I guess, because
oh my God.
So now I'm just like, what?
No.
And then
No.
okay, here's
I'm not going to be bullied into...
here's the kicker.
Exactly.
So I said I was coming, and then
Uh-oh.
I did the worst. I did the. I did
not
not
show
show
up?
I did the worst thing.
You
y'all.
did not show up?
Kiva, insert middle name, Williams.
I know. I became a no-show, but then
that's
in my mind, I
terrible.
was like, I should just said I
We're
wasn't
judging you
coming.
right now.
I
Yes, you
know.
should have.
So now I'm like, the person definitely hates me because they text me multiple times about it. I felt obligated to go. I didn't show up, and my son was just like, "Why didn't you just tell her you weren't coming?"
All right. That has just inspired a future podcast,
There you go.
Okay.
which is going to be how to say no. Boundaries. Boundaries.
Friendship boundaries.
Stay tuned
Oh
for
my
a
gosh,
Maggie and the
it's my
Moms
favorite word.
podcast. Boundaries coming soon. All right. Before we go, I always end every podcast with Ask Me Anything, where we all have to answer the same unrelated to the topic question. Today's question is, what can I do? What do I want to do better as a parent? I always start with Deanna.
Yes, thank you.
Always put on the spot. It's my mantra for everything in my life, not just parenting, is I need more patience. I just don't have the patience. And it bled over as I started having kids in my 30s into parenting. And I need to just stop, calm down, chill, go slower, and be patient with them on everything, homework and everything. So that's
how
good.
because I feel like we could all use, well, I'm not going to speak for you. I could use more patience as well. How do we work on that?
I
Because
think
when we're
it's-
being impatient, we don't want to be, but it
Yeah.
happens. So how do we stop that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyone?
I could being more
The
thoughtful,
worst.
I guess. Like I said, you just have to slow down. I think my thing is I'm just rushing all the time to do all the things.
okay.
And I don't have to do all the
Okay.
things. And I need to
So make an
Delegate
effort,
and-
a concerted effort to
Yeah.
slow down.
slow down. And then that patience comes,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Get with me in 6 months.
Okay. We'll do. All right, Kiva. What do you
So,
want to do better as a
I
parent?
want to be a better parent with my teens. So I have a 6-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And I feel like the 16-year-old, we are like opposites. So it's hard parenting someone who has similar characteristics as myself, but they're opposite. Like they're not outgoing. I'm
Right,
outgoing.
right.
Like you want them to do things, you want them to explore things, but they're not willing to do it. So navigating, being the person that's supportive, but also wanting them to step out of their zone, because it's like you're missing out on things. But I have to check myself. I'm like, do I want this for them, or is it because I want them to actually experience it, or because I want to be like, hey, he did this. You know what I mean? So
Yes. Are you doing it for you or are you doing it for them?
right,
Is what you're saying?
yeah. And as a teen, with a teen, it's hard because they don't want to do anything you want them to do. They don't see any value of what you're trying to give them. It's like they're just like, oh, I have it figured out, and you're like, no, you don't. Like, hello, you need my help, but they don't see it. So
They
navigating
will. I think they will.
yeah, but when?
I don't know. When they grow up,
because he's
they'll be
16, and so far,
I think they
Hard.
do. I think I'm grateful for all the stuff that I hated that my parents did.
really,
It's a cycle.
So later on,
Yeah.
you came back around.
Adulthood.
Eventually.
When you have your
You
own
will.
kids.
All right,
But that's still a good goal.
yeah.
I think that's a good goal. Yourself?
You know, I'm reluctant to answer this because I want you guys to think I'm just perfect and put together.
Then you'd be the only human in the world.
So
Are you really a mom?
this is really hard. I've always knew I struggled with this, but then my husband very tenderly pointed it out. So I need to work on this. But about like going from 0 to 60, and not necessarily in anger, but being overstimulated because the TV's on, then my little one wants something, she's touching me, then he's asking a question to my son, and then she has a fit. So you have to regulate yourself in order to like healthily engage in that. But I'm worked up from you having a fit, and it's a lot. And so I'm reading this book, and I hate that I forgot the title, but it's about how to self-regulate as a parent. But she just made me feel so validated about how we do have so many things going on that keep you off kilter, sometimes from the beginning of the day. You know, my kids are little, so from the beginning of the day, when my eyes open, it's mama, breakfast, they're fussing, and she touched me. So I'm off from the beginning of the day. Or all the emails throw you off, or something with your boss. And then at 4 o'clock, a lot of people get to wind down. But for us, we're starting our second shift of the night for 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so it just felt very validating of like, you have all these things going on, but it's helping me walk through how can I minimize those so I can be more regulated for my kids. And it felt good to know it's not just a me thing, or I'm not just like gentle parenty enough, but it was validating that a lot of things do throw us off and make it challenging to be regulated for kids. And now I have to manage your emotions.
Yes.
And you have to start from a place of being centered. So that's something I'm trying to be intentional about.
I like that. Do you meditate?
I will now.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, we have Katie Kermitzos is another Maggie and the Mom's frequent guest, and she's the most zen, lovely person in the world.
Well, then there you go.
But yeah, I think, and she has a meditation podcast. It's called Women's Meditation Network, and she has quick meditations on her podcast.
Like 10 to 15 minutes.
You can just listen to it, center yourself. And I've heard her, one of them, and I mean, it's amazing. I did feel better.
Okay.
I have another solution too, and Maggie's heard this before, but this is a double parent privilege.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes.
Please talk to
Delegate.
your husbands and
Good point.
wives, because the kids do this. It's a biology thing. They come straight to mom.
Yep.
Yes.
And then
Yes,
I will
Mom.
point
Yes.
and say, you have another parent. He's over there.
Yes.
Please go talk to him about it. Why are you asking me for a snack? You walk past him
It's not
to ask me for a snack.
mom's job. Like we
Right.
got to get rid of that. This is dad's
Yeah.
job. This is mom's
Yes.
job. This is the parents' responsibility.
Right.
But sometimes dad sends them. They're like, go ask your
Oh,
mother.
true.
You're
Oh,
like,
no.
Yeah.
Then that's
why
a
did
conversation.
your father
Yeah.
just ask me? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
That's another conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
it is. All right. So I want to be better at all the stuff that I expect from them, because everything that I ask them to do, I want to be better at doing as well. Goes back to the modeling.
Yep.
Get off your phone while I'm on mine.
Yeah.
Your discipline and your work ethic, you have to work hard in life while I'm sitting on the sofa eating my chips or whatever, you know? No, really. Like
You've got to get out of the house.
yeah.
Go outside
Go
more.
make friends. And I don't have one single friend. I stay home all the time in my sweats and talk to only my husband.
You're not lying, because you said that about the
It's-
things that I tell you about at work. You're like, I need to do better.
Yes, I need to do better. Yeah. What was the thing specifically? Was it check the calendar?
The check the calendar inside joke.
Yeah.
You need to look for things yourself before you ask me.
Yes. Yes. That's another good one, because my kids will ask me something. I'll be like, figure it out. And yet here at work, I'm like, Deanna, where is the whatever? And Deanna's favorite line that we all hate is check the calendar.
Yeah. I've
I can
outlined
hear your
it,
voice.
bullet points, everything you need
email,
for
everything.
you.
So I want to be the person that I am asking my children to be.
That's
I
good.
love
That's my
that.
answer.
I steal that one
perfect.
too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, friends. Love you guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll hang out.
Yes.
We'll do mom
let's
stuff,
do it.
Yes.
friend stuff.
Right. Coffee.
And thank you for hanging out with us here on Maggie and the Moms. We'll see you next time.